Hello and welcome back to the Schooner Pod. I'm Bobby Howard. With me, we got Jameson Maxwell. Hoping to maybe hear from Ty Lee later on in the show. Jameson, look, the term Sooner Magic gets thrown around, and maybe sometimes a little more than it should, but it is so apt to describe Oklahoma's 27-21 win over Auburn. Just a massive, massive comeback. Just really just stunning more than anything. In its first ever SEC win, first ever SEC road win, capped off by what was just an iconic moment from Kip Lewis, the Kip 6, as folks are calling it. Jameson, what are your feelings? What are the vibes right now after what was an absolute just escape at Jordan-Hare?
Man, it just feels good. It really does. And I really want to put big picture in this because all I want to do, as an OU fan, is just hyper scrutinize all the things that happened before that fourth quarter. But screw it. Oklahoma's a fourth quarter team this year. That's whenever we turn it on and we just finish games. We just had a pretty big deficit in the Tennessee game. But if you give us less of a deficit, we could just do the same thing versus Auburn. It feels pretty good.
Well, give Michael Hawkins a full 4 quarters, maybe the people who said that aren't so crazy after all. But no, I mean, this was, just a pure stressor all the way through until, everything flipped. And, like you said, there are things to critique, definitely some stuff to talk about, but overall, just, what just astonishing that they're able to go in and get the win. I don't know where to start with this. Do we want to go into the defense? Want to go in the offense?
No, let's talk offense, Bobby, because I feel like everyone wants to talk about Mike Hawkins and everyone wants to hear about Mike Hawkins. He started off really great and ended off really great. And there's something in the middle where you're like, I'm really not the most excited about that, but screw that. Change what your, baseline wish is for this Oklahoma offense and realize you've got to set it down and the expectations are pretty low right now. It's a true freshman damn quarterback and a hodgepodge offensive line that's finally getting some continuity in our wide receiving crew that's absolutely decimated right now. What we did in this offense and what he did as a leader was absolutely stunning. Seeing him go up to the line of scrimmage, Bobby, change plays, actually show some pre-snap reads, something that we dogged on a lot with Arnold, breath of fresh air. You could tell he's a leader. They said in the reports that he gave a pregame and postgame speech. Is this exactly what you want in this position? This is what we needed so badly.
And it's astonishing to see it come from such a young player, like a very, very, young quarterback, true freshman, first true freshman to win his first start on the road in OU history. He is clearly shows like that maturity beyond his years, that heart. I mean, it's mind blowing that I don't think it's jumping the gun to say, he feels like our guy for not only now, but the next 3 years. This is a quarterback you can really get behind.
Yeah. And this is a guy who got thrown into the Tennessee game in a situation that we were not ready to have. Our whole offense was sculpted for Jackson Arnold. RPO, go out there and let your players make plays. That is not what we're running right now. So people coming for Seth Littrell and Joe John Finley, it's a hard job for them. I'm not defending them right now. Don't get me wrong. I'm not defending them. They obviously have their faults. But Mike Hawkins is a different guy than Jackson Arnold. And we've seen that a lot, and we've discussed that. Even the short time on this pod, we've discussed it. There is a lot of time now in between the next game for Seth Littrell and Joe John to get in the office and figure out how can we make this offense be best for Mike Hawkins, because he's gone out there and made it on his own, but give them 10, 11 days now with some film, maybe we might get something out of it.
Yeah. And I mean, that has to be the job between now and Texas, is figure out the best way to make this offense work with, what you have in Hawkins and what you have in the receiving core, which is, a box of scraps at this point, but the best you can, what you can do with what you've got, with the JJ Hesters, with the Brennan Thompsons, craft that offense to what you have, what Mike Hawkins likes, what he's comfortable with. That is your best way forward, regardless of whatever laid plans you had before the season. That's out the window now. So I would love to see more Hawkins in it, like just more stuff for Hawkins. I feel like this game turned for the offense when they kind of, let him unleash a little bit more. And that's really kind of what you got to do. You can't half-ass it. You just kind of got to give him the keys and let him run because he's capable. He just went into Jordan freaking Hare and that's a first-time starter and won a ball game with no turnovers.
That's the biggest thing. No turnovers. That's so huge. I can tell you something, Bobby, moving forward in the barometer of what this offense can be with Michael Hawkins, we know we're getting the QB run game. Maybe, just maybe, he's a little bit too jittery to run rather than staying in the pocket. But what do you expect from a guy with the offensive line that we had that actually pass blocked decently in this game? But that's like his comfort, like if he runs, he can control that himself. But whenever he hits that ball to JJ Hester and gets that 50, 60 yard completion with him, then you say, all right, all those safeties you've been seeing these past 6 quarters, even with Jackson Arnold out there, so 8 quarters, who have just been giving absolute utter disrespect to this offense. If we can at least show some, deep ball, prowess within our offense, that's going to give him even more room to run. If we can unlock that in the Texas game, that's how we'll succeed offensively.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. Because like we saw with Auburn, just kind of packing the box a little bit, keeping it tight. And, it's one of those where you saw him be able to really run, especially early, that massive touchdown to kind of kick off the game.
That dude's fast, man.
He is fast as hell. Yeah, the whole thing that he trained, like his trainer was Kyler Murray's dad is that, just of course, so that's pretty great. But yeah, no, I mean, Hawkins, I believe, was recorded like the 3rd fastest player in college football by I can't remember who it was, what tweet it was, but yeah, I mean, that was one hell of a run. But you've got to unlock whatever we have receiver wise. That deep threat has to be a thing. His touchdown to Hester was the longest pass of the season so far. He also delivered the longest rushing play of the season so far.
Yeah. So. Thank you. The quarterback just gonna have to be a do-it-all right now. I mean, it felt good too, seeing JJ Hester have like a game where he had 2 of like the bigger offensive plays out there with that big deep ball, which, Mike Hawkins put it right into stride perfectly there. JJ, yeah, he juggled it a little bit. He did. This is a guy who dropped some passes at the beginning of the season, but it's a deep pass. If you slow it down just a little bit, you're going to see a couple of juggles here and there from these deep balls. I'm not going to go too much into that. That was pretty damn good catch. And then his little comeback route on the sideline where he kind of, made a couple people miss and get that first down on, what was it, 2nd or 3rd and long? That's what we need. That the type of player that JJ Hester is at 6'4", big body possession wide receiver is what we've been yelling for this whole season. And he is a guy who did not step up at the beginning whenever he got in his head and kept dropping passes. But this is a huge confidence booster that hopefully we can turn the tides for him now.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, we've called him out. We've kind of been on Hester and Brennan Thompson, especially really on Hester, and you got to give him a ton of credit. He absolutely stepped up in a scenario where we didn't really think he would. And, I think that the ability to just, to keep fighting and find a way to make it happen, you got to give him credit. That's a really, really cool story and a really good performance. And look, at the Sooners want to have any hope of continuing to win ball games, they're going to need more JJ Hester because the wide receiver room situation isn't getting better imminently. Already, you've seen, we're not going to regurgitate it, but you're hearing not the best news on a couple receivers.
Andrew Anthony is likely out for the season now. He's having a second procedure on his knee. That is third overall procedure counting the ACL. So there's something ain't right there. He's still having discomfort. And we knew that from the beginning because he keeps going out there suiting up and then not playing. So something ain't right there with him, right? And then what the hell is going on with Nick Anderson? I still can't figure out, Bobby, if this is a quad or a hamstring. I've seen it reported 2 different ways from 2 different sites. And whatever it is, it's a soft tissue injury that's nagging and immediately re-hurts whenever he goes out there. So I would not have any optimism for him to play the Texas game.
For Anderson or Burks?
Anderson.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
No, Burks is a different thing. I'll talk about Burks after this.
Burks,
yeah, let's talk about Anderson.
I thought Anderson was definitely more of a hamstring situation rather than soft tissue, but I could be wrong.
Hamstring is a soft tissue.
Okay, that is true. So
a soft tissue meaning like a muscle, not as much like ligament
or a bone.
Tendon. So like an ankle would not be a soft tissue. Groin and quad, hamstring, or you consider like your soft tissues. So those are things that are easily to re-tear because you're activating them immediately off the line of scrimmage as a wide receiver. So these wide receivers re-pull these things all the time.
Well, hey, there you go. I appreciate the information. That's why you got 3 TVs, Jameson. You
this is big time here.
You got that. Yeah, you got the big time knowledge. I love it. So yeah, no. So I mean, just hearing, we reference Oklahoma breakdown all the time because to me that's like almost like a reference point. Like, that's something like, that is an asset to Sooner fans. I love listening to it, and you can really glean about what's going on in the program from it. It's like, I mean, just good stuff for sure. And obviously people know what it is. They don't need my endorsement, but the way Gabe kind of talked about the receivers today did not give me a lot of optimism about Anderson. Really about any receiver that's not Deion Burks. So, come Red River, you have to kind of, I mean, I would be a little shocked if Burks isn't out there, but yeah, I don't know.
So they're saying I see on like the boards that Deion Burks is struggling with an abdomen injury, but it's more being characterized as classic upper body injury. These college people, you really can't figure out what's going on, right? Like Nick Anderson, I can't tell you if it's a quad or a hammy. I don't know. And because I keep seeing things different places. So it's hard. But you hear an abdomen injury, but and then they're saying there's a likely chance that he'll probably be back for Texas. Then you start to think like this is probably just like an abdominal muscle strain. So think like Quinn Ewers, what he had. He's been out for a couple weeks because of it, but maybe might fall in line for returning the Red River. It's a huge pain management thing with these abdominal strains, but everything has grades and degrees to it. So it might not be as severe as Quinn Ewers, but if it was something else different as an abdomen injury, like a sports hernia, if you guys hear that, there'd be no discussion. He would be out. There's nothing more to do. So I don't really know what else it can be other than just like a strain of his ab muscle, and should just be pain management going into the Red River rivalry.
Let's hope it is just a pain management situation. And just looking back at the injury report from last week, I believe he was doubtful and then downgraded. So if it was something like a hernia, he would have just been out from the jump.
Yeah, he'd be straight up out for that. And that's going to be a, same timeline of Jalil Farouk after that, if not out for the season.
Yeah. So, geez.
so I think it's just a strain. I think it's just reading tea leaves here. Obviously, I have no inside knowledge on this, but if I just see an abdomen injury where he's out for a week and then should be coming back in 2 weeks, I start thinking it's just like a strain. So that's going to be big time for Hawkins because all in all, like we can say like, oh, I feel very good about what JJ Hester did in this game. But, Bobby, how many passes did he throw complete? Like 10? Is that right? You got the box score up. Was he 10 for 15?
10 for 15. Yep.
That's just not acceptable for a team that was like trailing for a large part of that second half. 10 completions is just not there.
Well, and I mean, they just the offense was not on the field very much at all.
What was time of possession?
24-34 for OU, 35-26 for Auburn.
We got to stop doing that. That is such for a running quarterback. in a team that we're trying to establish the run with him, that is absolutely unacceptable. And you could tell the defense was gassed. So
Yep.
we need to get the running quarterback game more like designed rather than him just scrambling, like designed quarterback runs.
Do you know how many first downs though you had, Jameson? Take a guess.
Off third down or just in general?
Just overall first downs.
9.
11. So,
it's just still horrible. Golly.
I know.
It's because like our offense, our points, I guess, were just predicated off big plays, right? So you get the 46-yard touchdown run, or however, I think it's about that 46-yard touchdown run at the beginning of the game. And then you get the JJ Hester pass and the Kip 6. And other than that, then you got field goals, right? So, like we didn't really chip away too much. And that's where it comes down to where you at least got to have optimism as a Sooner fan, right, Bobby? That all these fans have been going after our offensive coordinators, that they could at least shift the offense into something that could be more successful for a guy like Hawkins.
Yeah. And it's tricky because I don't want to pull the Lincoln Riley we're close thing because the offense wasn't great.
No, we're not close, but
we're not
get
close.
better. Hopefully we can hopefully get a little bit better.
I saw things that I liked. And I think there are things you can do to make the offense. Like, I feel like they weren't far off from having a better offensive performance. So the biggest thing being penalties. The penalties in this game just
absolutely
killed so many major opportunities. So, of course, Bauer Sharp.
Now it's time. We're going to talk about the tight end. 17 minutes in and we got there.
There we go. Well, it's tight end time. I thought Bauer Sharp was pretty good.
Catching the ball. Yeah.
I thought he caught the ball well, but having that massive play of his negated by the pick play, frustrating, brutal,
Jake
to say the least.
Running like with his head down, not even running a route, like a big
Leroy Jenkins.
Dingus. Golly, that pissed me off so much.
It was bad. It was just sloppy.
Like Bobby with these tight ends doing those kind of things, and I saw a lot of other pick attempts in this game. This is the offensive staff just saying, I don't believe in our receivers to get open fast enough. We're going to just have to do stuff and cheat, and hopefully we don't get caught. Because there's a lot of times pick routes don't get caught, right? And it creates a big play. If we know we're going to go 3 and out every other drive, right? Screw it. Let's try a pick play, and maybe it'll get Bauer Sharp a 40-yard catch.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not against pick plays in general, but if you don't know how to run them, don't do them. If that was your best effort at it, where you just stumble into them, don't do it.
That was bad.
It was really infuriating.
Bad game from Jake Roberts. Bad game.
Look, I don't want to be on Joe John's ass, but if one of our co-OCs is a tight ends coach, the tight ends can't be that frustrating. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They what are we doing here?
I wonder how much time Joe John's spending with the tight end group. How much does he spend overall with the offense is a co-OC versus how much he's micromanaging and developing these tight ends? Because we can dog on Bauer Sharp in almost every single podcast group, OU Sooners Twitter, message boards, dog on Bauer Sharp. But this dude's a former quarterback. So you're saying he's a bad blocker? You're damn right he is, because he's still getting into it. It's been a couple years. He was not this, growing up. You don't see a lot of, quarterbacks. You don't see a lot of Blake Bells, right, where they're former quarterbacks and all of a sudden they're just an absolute brilliant tight end blocker. That's a rarity, So you expect that he's going to be a weak blocker. You're going to expect him to make bozo plays where he starts running like he's an arena football player up the field, or Tyreek Hill thinking that he can get away with that. You got to stay in line. You can't motion and start running up the field a second early. He's going to make mistakes like that, but you would hope that he'd have a good teacher that he could slowly but surely get better, because we already know he's a hard worker, right? This was like a camp darling because of how hard he worked. You'd hope that he's at least getting some teaching to where he's got a good head on his shoulders and can fix this throughout the season.
Yeah. And I think you just got to iron it out. You got to iron the mistakes out. And I know that's easier said than done, but it's frustrating. It's frustrating to see it happen. And it's got to fit. It's got to change, because I think I really do think Bauer Sharp can be a massive asset, receiving wise. I thought he was pretty good at times in this game. Just in terms of catching the ball as a receiver. It's the blocking, it's the tiny details, the penalties that really put OU in jeopardy here because, just a couple of those flip. And, I think it's a different game. I think it's a tighter game, or not a tighter game, but I think it's a performance you don't need Sooner Magic to win. But that's the thing about football. If you're not disciplined and you don't do the right things, you're going to lose. Undisciplined football teams lose. And they just got to iron that. They just got to iron that out.
I saw one play where we were in 12 personnel, and I think we put Sharp into motion over to the same side that Roberts was. And I saw both Roberts and Sharp try to block the same person, the defensive end. Both of them missed the block on him. Like they said, okay, guys, I know Roberts, you're having a hard time. We're giving you defensive end assignments, and you failed with that. So we're going to send over your buddy Bauer Sharp, and you guys can double team them. They both failed on it. And I'm like, oh man, like come on guys. And then whenever they're on the right side of the ball, like Jake Taylor's still trying to get healthy, like he didn't start the game off that well either, so it's like it's tough. It's really, really tough, and we don't really have another option because I see Jamie in the comments talking about Devon Mitchell. Brent Venables straight up said it last week that Devon Mitchell was not taking it seriously enough to where, like, in terms of coming in as a true freshman and how young he is, he didn't step up to the level that is needed to be a true freshman player on this football team.
Yeah. And look, for everyone saying, there are people in the comments being like, "Oh, stop saying you should be in high school." Yeah, that's part of it. He kind of should have been apparently because his emotional maturity wasn't there. He is improving. That's great. You love to see it. But yeah, he's just not ready yet. He's just not ready yet. Maybe by the end of the season, but you're just kind of not right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, but he's got that star impact on College Football 25, and now he's like a 99 overall on your dynasty, Bobby. So there's still hope.
Oh yeah. Oh no. Yeah. He's already he left early. He was damn good. You couldn't keep him in on campus for 4 years, so he was damn good. But no, I don't know. I think it is interesting. Just I don't want to talk about the receivers too much, but only four players logged receiving yards. Logged any reception. Hester, Sharp, Brendan Thompson, and Jaquez Petaway, and Sharp led the team with 4 receptions.
Yeah.
So
we're gonna need Burks.
Something's got to happen. Something's got to change. You got to get more guys in the mix. You got to get Burks back.
Yeah, and when you get Burks back, I don't want to see any of this bogus stuff where he's running behind the scrimmage in motion on 3rd and long. Like, no, this guy is legitimately going to have to be our savior. And we said it at the beginning of the season, and we have failed to see it so far. Like, this guy is going to have to be our 15 target guy. He needs to get way more targets. He needs to go downfield, and he needs to go and make plays for us.
Yeah,
straight up.
He's going to have to be a workhorse. He just certainly is. Let's talk about the running game a little bit. Another just kind of pedestrian game, not really anything much at all. Still doing the same kind of garbage of, running the inside zone right into the middle of the defense. But Javonte Barnes got the lion's share of the carry. Well, really the only back that got carries. He had 18 carries, 61 yards. I thought he was all right. I think Barnes is kind of feels like the best guy at the moment. I mean, I don't think that's new by any means, at least until Tatum gets back. But
yeah, when Tatum gets back, he's in concussion protocol. The dude was a limp noodle whenever he fell down on the sideline over versus Tennessee. So he should be back for Texas. But Sawchuk just really hasn't had it, and it's kind of a bummer, Bobby. That you see him have that one big run this game, and I was like, oh yeah, I feel so good for him. Like I felt bad for Sawchuk this year. Because, I know he's good, but I just don't think he's good for this offense in this offensive line. It's just not a good style for him. And I felt so bad for him. I was like, oh, I feel so good. He got a good run. And then it goes right back for a penalty, So it's like Javonte Barnes is just going to have to be that guy. He's going to run hard. And if we don't have a hole for him, he's just going to at least try to fall forward for a yard or two.
For sure. I want to say this about Sawchuk, too. and obviously there's a lot of football to be played. We've seen this with Sawchuk. He came on really strong at the end of last year. Any concern about him being a portal guy at
Yes,
this
I was
point?
thinking the exact
Like,
same thing throughout the game yesterday. Or not 2 days ago. I think if he continues on this trajectory and Taylor Tatum turns into the guy that he is, I don't see any way, shape, or form Sawchuk shouldn't, transfer. And I guess
it-
home for him would be Colorado, right? I really hope he wouldn't go to Dion.
Dion ain't hard to find. No, and I wouldn't blame him. I feel like the system's a bad fit right now, just given where the O line is, and obviously it's going to be a little. You hope the cavalry's coming, but can you afford to wait on that again? I don't really know.
No.
So
Yeah, it's
we'll see.
and really, I think this running game, Bobby, I think this is what we're gonna get, and then maybe a little bit of a bump because this offensive line, we finally got this team to show an offensive line and play the same unit for the whole game. Other than like a couple snaps Tarquin had to set out. We got the same thing where Tarquin was at left tackle, Sexton at left guard, Hickman at center, woo, and then to Jake Taylor. I don't care if they're not all 100%. We're finally getting some continuity, and you can't expect a group of guys, 5 guys who really didn't play with each other last season, and they're all brand new to each other this season, some in a new system, to have any or much success at all unless they play together and develop these kind of nonverbal cues of who got who whenever we get these disguised, blitz coverage, right? So we're starting to get that now. So hopefully we're kind of rounding into form coming into OU Texas.
Yep, and having this, having a game where you have to fight and scrap your way to a win on the road in an environment like that is just the perfect thing to prime you for OU Texas. Because I mean, think about previous seasons, unless there was like a big non-conference game like Ohio State, there's not an environment like Jordan Hare in the Big 12. It just does not exist outside of occasionally Norman and Austin, which you do not play in. So having that experience, I think, will be really helpful for the line. The continuity, definitely big. And, getting that bye week between now and then, I think it's only going to help even more. So I don't know. It feels, I don't want to get too high on the line, but in terms of optimism, this has to be the most optimistic you really can get about them. I guess at this point in the game, but
they're doing
yeah,
enough to
still good.
pass block. That's what it is. Like I've been happy with the pass blocking, right? Like they're grading out decently on average, like around 75-ish. For all of them, all 5 of them combined in PFF's grades for pass blocking. Their average-ish for run blocking is in like the 60s. So it's a pretty stark difference. But you got to feel good about how they've given support to Hawkins in the pocket. I've been very happy with that, and they've made some good things to kind of give them some routes to run. So really, if they become more into it, like you said, Bobby, maybe we might see the run game start to open up a little bit better.
Yeah, hopefully that'd be great. I think we're pretty much done with the offense.
Yeah, let's talk defense.
Yeah, no need for an MVP or for a game ball. It's
I
clearly Hawkins.
mean, honorary game ball to Hester. I
Yes.
got to give it to him because that guy's been in a slump and in the dumps, and he made 2 big time plays for a team that really needed some playmaking. But yeah, it's Hawkins, no doubt about it.
Yeah. Hawkins was unreal. So good for him. Let's talk about the defense. Jameson, this is a unit we have been obviously very high on, as a lot of people have. I don't think this was a bad performance by any means, but it was definitely one of the weaker ones we've seen. Just in terms of, total yards are I can't remember who said it, the most overrated stat in football, but I mean, I don't know. I don't think the defense played as bad as the numbers that Auburn put up on that front.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously they came through and in the clutch and won the football game with the Kip Lewis pick 6 and R. Mason Thomas once again just shutting the door on them. I don't know. How do you grade this performance from the defense?
Yeah, screw it. I'm gonna volley this right back to you, buddy.
Fine by me.
Tell me your overall thoughts on this defense. Are they higher or lower or the same after this game? And I just want the answer, and then I'll talk about my points.
That's a damn good question.
And see, this is no, you can't give me your broadcast media, all this stuff where you answer around the question. I just need an answer. Is it higher, the same, or lower?
The same.
Okay.
I would
good.
say
Good
the
answer.
same.
Good answer.
I'd
Good
say the
answer.
same because
Yes.
I thought we saw some highs, we saw some lows.
Yeah.
It's so, and you have to take the four games in a row into account.
And how much are the defense's bigger plays that they gave up more just a subject of they're gassed? Whenever you are not keeping the ball enough on the offensive side of the ball, you're getting plenty of 3 and outs, and you're forcing this defense to continuously play over and over. Like, yeah, the defense is they're going to let up some plays. And they had a couple of big plays, but other than that, like they still had stellar things like the pick six and the goal line stand. Like I thought it was a great game for the defense for what they were presented to them. Like these past 2 games, they have not been helped too much at all. And they've continued to put this team on their back, which is super hard to do as a defense and really, really succeed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking it up right now. So time of possession for Auburn, 35 minutes. For Tennessee, they were on the field for also 35 minutes. So
it's just not right. It's just such a bummer. It's really, and like I really don't want people to be like worrying about like, oh, our cornerbacks didn't look too good. Oh, the defensive line wasn't pushing as much in the run game there in the third quarter. Well, of course, those guys are getting gassed. Like, what do you want them to do? The safety's still good. The linebackers still look good. But the guys in the trenches and the guys that are running go routes every other play, of course they're going to get gassed.
I mean, exactly. Yeah, it's just I mean, 2 straight weeks of that much time on the field, and I mean, you can not only that, but you can see it. As the game progressed, they looked so sharp at the start, lulled in the middle, but found that strength at the end to close. Just slammed the door shut. But I mean, I'm with you. I don't think you can fault them too much. I will say I think the secondary isn't as perfect, or I think before the Tennessee game I said I liked OU secondary more than I like Tennessee's. I question that quite a bit now, just because I feel like there are a couple weak spots here and there. But overall, I don't think you can bash them as like some massive liability. They're up there like anybody. If you put them out there for that long, they're going to have cracks. They're going to have bust. It's just kind of going to happen.
They gave up 21 points in a game where they had 35 minutes of possession. And I understand there's, what's that dude's Towns Magoo?
Towns Magoo. What a name. All-time name.
I kept laughing like a little kid every single time. All right, Towns Magoo. And of course, he just shanked everything that he did. Thank God Towns Magoo just missed like 3 kicks versus us, essentially. Like, my God. Like, oh.
Towns Magoo doing the back-to-back misses from point blank. I don't know, man. Towns Magoo. He was a gift that
Isn't
kept
there who's the Sunny character that's
Fatty Magoo.
Fatty Magoo.
Aluminum Monster and Fatty Magoo.
That's what it is. I knew it's from Sunny. I knew there was a Magoo and Fatty.
We had a bunch of friends over here. We were definitely referencing Fatty Magoo. It was just that's just unfortunate. I'm not going to get back into
it. Bad, but yes, like that's 20. Like that's 6 points right there. I totally get that. But at the same time, like 21 points for what the defense was given, I think that's stellar. You're going to expect it to where the wide receivers for Auburn, they've got a pretty damn good unit. Like everyone heard about Cam Coleman, the true freshman, and like, oh, he's just an absolute stud. And he's a little bit hurt at the beginning of the season, but it's only a matter of time before he becomes like a dude. Like he looked like a dude in his 3 catches. Like that guy looked like a complete, utter athlete. And I'm sorry, whenever you're that kind of guy with that kind of build and that kind of athleticism, you're going to make some plays. So it's okay whenever you're Des Malone and you get worked by him, or you're Kenai Walker and you get worked. That's fine because those players are going to do that.
Yeah, it's just a guy being a dude. Like that just happens. And I will say as well, and I hate to do it. I really hate to say this. Like it makes me sick to say it. You got to give credit to Hugh Freeze. I thought he actually called a really good game. I thought offensively Auburn looked pretty solid at times.
Dude, Peyton Thorne, every single time he came off the field, that dude looked either bamboozled or angry. Oh my God, something about it was pissing me off just watching him. He's always like, he'd throw it the wrong direction. He'd be like, and he'd go and argue to the coaches. How much of it is like Hugh Freeze was actually doing good things, and Peyton Thorne just didn't know what the hell was going on.
That was the thing is I didn't think Peyton Thorne was that bad somehow. Like it was weird to see so much just discontent across the board, but they were also like not doing they weren't doing the worst Auburn things possible. Like they weren't turning the ball over till the very end. I don't know. I think this program as a whole is an absolute mess, and I think this is going to be kind of the defining loss for the Hugh Freeze era. I don't see how they recover, how you pull yourself off the mat when you have a game just, in your hands like this. But, I think for 3 quarters, Auburn did pretty well. I thought they ran the ball really well, like better than pretty much anyone has on OU. Jarquez Hunter, I thought was very solid.
Yeah. Things started to open up for him as that game started to progress. Like that first couple of units, you're like, this defense got it. This defense, other than Woody Washington. Yeah, I've been a Woody Washington backer, but man, he made a couple of bonehead plays this game. I'll say that. Like that, that screen pass on the first drive for Auburn where it was 3rd and 10 and they had it. He went in and just kind of waited a little bit. He could have gotten a tackle around like 6 or 7 yards into it and decided to do a thing that I know the coaching staff has tried to get their players to do because we saw it a lot in the Temple game is just punch the ball and you can hopefully get a fumble. He tried to punch the ball on 3rd and 10 whenever he was the guy who needed to make that tackle on 6-7 yard line. If he wouldn't have punched the ball, if he wouldn't have went out and made a tackle, that's 4th and 2. And that's just stupid. That is a person spamming R1 on their PlayStation controller and not actually going to make the tackle. Like you can't just try to spam strip.
They had strip ball and aggressive.
Yes, they did.
They just forgot for to switch it back. Yeah, just Woody Washington. Yeah, no, that's just kind of, I don't know, just a dumb, I get wanting turnovers. There's nothing more exhilarating than a turnover, but
it's 3rd and long. You got to make
3rd and long. Get it. It's not glorious. You just got to make the tackle. Get him down. So I agree.
You know who a guy was this game that I was like not astounded because it's honestly you expect it from him, but like just continuously impressed from and the way he fit tackling and kind of stopping plays that could have been a lot bigger was Billy Bowman. Like I just thought by the eye test, now I understand PFF didn't grade him that well, and who cares? PFF in college football is not the most perfect thing anyways. But like, Billy Bowman, he made a lot of plays out there in open space, and then that goal line stand, he was the guy to, stop that 4th and goal. I thought like he showed out to the point where it's like I could just straight up say with Danny not being as healthy, we kind of talk about that here in a little bit, possibly. This is all assumption. He looked like our best defender out there.
I would agree with that. And the amount of times you would just be watching a play if you're just watching the ball and all of a sudden there's Billy Bowman right at the line of scrimmage. His speed to just close out on plays like that, it deflates anything. You just cannot do much at all in the flats. You have to get downfield fast or else his ass is coming for you. He is just pure electricity. I love watching that guy. I agree. I think he's by far our best, not by far. I think he's our best defensive player at the moment, which, it's I think it's tight. I think we got a lot of dogs on this defense, but yeah, I don't know that the ability to like, when was the last time we saw a guy just close out like that from the secondary at OU? Like
Steven Johnson. Is that his name? Oh my God.
What's his name? I don't know.
That's Steven Johnson. What's his name? Steven Johnson is a medical term. What the frick? Oh my God. Number 10. Safety played back in 2016. Stephen Parker. God bless it. Stephen Parker. Stephen Parker would do it every once in a while.
Yeah, he was good.
Delarrin Turner yell. Next. We forgot about Delarrin. Yes, that's it. Of course. That was right. That was on a silver platter in front of us, Bobby.
He's our game ball, by the way, because he inspired everybody to he inspired Billy Bowman.
Oh my God. Can we just move
Yeah,
into?
we
I
can
want
move
to touch
on
on. I want to touch on Danny Stutzman because
for sure.
he led the team in snaps this week on the defensive side of the ball, but still, like watching him last week and how much rotation we had at the linebacking position. And understand we got a lot of good players at the inside linebacking position. Like we're 4 deep, and Lewis Carter, if he's going to go out there and make plays like he did in Tennessee, he deserves snaps. But at the same time, whenever you have a preseason All-American, you would think that he would be doing more in that Tennessee game. He got a lot of snaps, but a lot of people were talking about that Texas caller, Bobby. And it makes you think like he didn't look like his kind of old self. It seems like he was making more mistakes and wasn't as explosive as he was at the beginning of the season in this game.
It was atypical, just the lack of it. He just didn't have that intensity, which was just odd. I think it's one of those where it's so out of the ordinary that you almost kind of flush it and be like, that's weird. I hope it doesn't happen again. And you never know what's going on with any individual, any individual human being or any individual player, especially in college where they give you 0 injury reports really. But yeah, he just didn't look like himself. And you hope that it doesn't become a trend and was just a weird one-off. But yeah, he just wasn't quite Danny Stutzman.
Yeah, so he had 51 snaps of 75 in the last game versus Tennessee. And you would expect him to be getting close to 65, 70. So that was a little bit off-putting for me in the Tennessee game. He was 72 of 76 in this game, which seems more like it. But maybe we're just hyper-focusing on this, and maybe I am too, just because of if he didn't wear that Texas cervical collar kind of thing, would we actually thinking he's hurt? Or would it just be like, it's okay for Danny to have a bad game?
By the way, I find it really interesting that you're calling it the Texas collar. Usually I just heard
or cowboy collar. Cowboy collar. Sorry,
cowboy collar.
I don't know why I say Texas. I'm just saying all kinds of wrong things today. It's a cowboy.
It's all good. Yeah,
God
the cowboy
bless.
No,
I'm looking
you're
at
good,
Texas's logo right now in front of me for preparation for Red River.
You got the Longhorns on the brain. I don't blame you. No, I don't know. I know my first thought with it was not medical. I was like, oh, badass. He's wearing a cowboy
Well, of course.
collar
And that's totally on brand for Danny, right? Like he'll just do some shit like that.
Yeah. To, keep doing the Bosworth Jr. thing. But, maybe he was doing that and it just threw him off. Who knows? I don't know. I've never worn a cowboy collar before. I couldn't tell you how it feels, but I imagine, any alteration to what you're wearing on a football field, it throws you off. It's something different, especially when you're so locked in on, routine. But
yeah, and the thing is, weird. Think of inside linebackers have worn that before, and you see a couple people. You talk about Bosworth, but for people listening to this pod, maybe a more relatable thing would be like Leighton Vander Esch. That guy wore that, and he had a long history of neck issues. So you start to think is he wearing it to protect his neck? Did he have some kind of neck strain to where he's trying to limit, which it does limit your amount of range of motion, how much you can turn your head? And also another reason to have it is if you have a stinger, more of a longer term stinger that hasn't gone really away and kind of flares up easier, it can also kind of help with that in your upper arm to lower neck. So I mean, nothing scary. And if he goes out and wears it again, I'd be like, okay, maybe this is something we need to keep an eye on. But if he just doesn't wear it next game, I'd be like, this dude just was experimenting. He just wanted to do something for fun, right? Right. He wasn't on the injury report, and you would hope that if he actually was dealing with something, you'd put it on the injury report.
Yeah, you don't want Brent Venables to be Kyle Whittinghaming it, but no, I think it was an aesthetic thing. Until I'm proven otherwise, we'll see. But yeah.
So what did you think about another guy that I feel like I haven't heard too much about from other media, and I was surprised to see more of, was Caden Woolard. I feel like had some good swats in this game, was providing good pressure in his 18 snaps that he had. We hadn't seen a lot of them this season, and I feel like he at least made himself noticed in his 18 snaps.
it's so interesting that Caden Woolard, played as much as he did, because literally this week I was playing, and I know we talk about the damn college football game too much. So apologies if that turns anyone off, but for real, I was playing as OU, and Woolard gets a lot of snaps in that game. I'm like, oh, well, that's a whiff. He doesn't play much. Like, I guess we just aren't going to see any Caden Woolard. And then shows up in this Auburn game, and I thought looked pretty solid, honestly.
Yeah. And he's not getting as many like a huge jump in snaps from his past, but I feel like he at least made himself really noticed, especially with that PBU and like providing some pressure to where it's like you're starting to see a little bit more from this defensive end room to where they're going out and showing out, because that was the big X factor that I said in the offseason, Bobby, of like how can this defense can go to the next level. So if we can have some difference makers and playmakers at the defensive end position, we're getting it right now from our Mason Thomas in the last 2 minutes of every single game. But if we can do something like in the middle of the game and guys like 3 and 4 deep can go out and provide some plays, like that's really reassuring, especially in a situation where I think PJ is done.
I don't get PJ out of Boari, man. It bums me out. It really bums me out that yes, it made more of an impact,
Yeah, I think they're only putting in PJ at the end of the game for sheer athleticism. It's like whenever it's a guaranteed pass down no matter what, they're like, screw it, PJ, you can try to get to the quarterback. You don't have to worry about run fits. You don't have to worry about, all you have to do is just put your head down, go to the quarterback. And that's where he's getting his snaps. And so it shows me as a watcher that his IQ of the game and trying to do more than just be a sheer athlete is the problem that's not getting him onto the field.
That just bums you out, because I don't know. It feels like I, still have like I'm, still have a bunch of GameStop stock right now, and I'm still holding on to it, just hoping something happens. But as a PJ out of Boari buyer, I'm just like, oh man, it's just not.
And like this guy can stay for a couple more years and still develop slowly, so it's not like something you need to sell. But for this season, it's looking like, you know what, the guy that could be this number 3 overall recruit or whatever he ended up in, top 5 overall recruit in the nation, this project that we saw, it's not going to be showing the fruits early, and it's a bummer. But let's turn to the positives back. Like our defensive end group are creating some plays to really let our interior and linebackers look great, because my God, whenever a pass is coming, R. Mason is coming after you. And that, I don't know what it is. I think if you just tell R. Mason that you guarantee you don't have to worry about the run, I think that's what it is. I think that has to be like, okay, I'll go do it and just destroy the right tackle every time. And that's why it's so valuable in these last 2-minute drives.
And I think there are guys who just love to just go. And the way football has evolved, that's less and less of a thing. Offenses have gotten sharp enough and smart enough to scheme people out of that, where the folks who just are on like just kill mode, you have to be more dynamic nowadays as a defensive, really just a defensive end, because you just can't. You have to be more dynamic, and I think that is probably a part of it. That's why you're seeing it, because you can just let them run. But I mean, when it comes down to just going in for the kill, no one's better. I mean, you see it. He is just so determined to get to that quarterback. It's impressive.
Yeah. You got anything else on the defense, Bobby, that we haven't touched on?
Yeah. I mean, we could talk about Kip Lewis a little bit. I thought,
oh God, of course, it's just like a given, and we didn't even talk about it because it's just been talked ad nauseum. Dude, that guy he played a good game all around, even not even talking about the interception too. Like, man, dude, I love Kip Lewis. It's such a he was such a good find for us last season as we brought him in next to Danny, and it's really this linebacking core is so damn good.
It's just so elite. And I know we talked a little bit about, Danny, he looked off. That's what's so great is you can still have Kip Lewis show up and have a hell of a performance.
Yeah, and Kobe McKenzie looked damn good too. And like it doesn't matter if Danny has an off game, you can have 2 or 3 other guys have great games at the interior.
Yeah. And I gotta say, scheme wise too, because I don't think we talk nearly enough about Zach Alley or Brent or whoever's really scheming the defense, but baiting Thorne into that interception was just it's beautiful. And when you get the full scope of that film, Kip, showing blitz, backing out like that. I mean, they just caught him right there. It was beautiful.
Running some inverts against Peyton Thorne is just exactly what you need. And you could tell earlier that drive, he made a couple of good plays, but I think maybe the players two before that, he threw a really nasty looking ball. And I was like, all right, this guy's, we got something here, guys. There could be possibly something. And it was only a matter of time before interception machine Peyton Thorne gave us a gift.
And I felt like he had a couple ones where we were just that close to picking him off. And you just knew it was going to happen. And I think as the game progressed, you kind of forgot about Peyton Thorne throwing the ball away. And, but then, I mean, it's just beautiful. And just what a moment in time. Where does I don't want to do a where does this rank thing because I don't want you to have to pull rankings out of your ass.
That is so hard. That'd be such a hard question.
Rank every play in the past 25 years. No, I'm not going to do that to you on the spot. But I mean, this just in terms of defensive plays that just turn a game. I can't. No, I can think of
the Billy Bowman pick six from last year. The 100-yarder was a big one. Like that was a very similar thing. Yeah, the Trey Brown too. Like those are plays where if those don't happen, you probably don't win this football game.
Yeah, Trey Brown. Yeah, agreed. Trey Brown sack on Ellinger. Stephen Parker's pick six against Georgia. Until it wasn't.
Thank you, Bobby.
I'm sorry. It haunts my dreams forever. But I mean, it was just a hell of a performance. Shades of Torrance Marshall picking off A&M and running it to the house. Just it was a beautiful moment. And I gotta ask, are you on the side of does this win does it give you as much optimism, or does it just kind of stealing that game? Is it more just well, we got lucky? What are your thoughts on it?
If you're just talking about looking at the game and not talking about the culture that it brings, yes, I can understand people being like, oh, we didn't play good that whole game. We got bailed out by a pick six and everything. For the majority of it, we looked outmatched. But really a win with that electric of an ending and your quarterback being a true freshman, putting his life on the line and doing another 360 into the end zone and creating that kind of energy going into a rivalry game, that's where you get it. I don't care about what happened in this game. It was an absolutely, I'm sure, an electric locker room. All the guys are on cloud nine. All of the deficiencies that we had in the middle and the first, second, and third quarters are not being thought of anymore because recency bias is strong and the vibes are high. And so that's what you want. Now people's confidence levels are good. They're feeling themselves, and hopefully you can bring in big time energy and kind of kick it into that second gear whenever we play Texas.
I mean, absolutely. That's the right way to look at it. I think, especially, now that OU's in the SEC and, people need to understand it's not the only way you win games isn't going to be blowouts anymore. You're going to have tough games. You're going to have performances where you have to grit it out and get a tough win. And you can be happy about it. You can be over the moon about it. And I think this was so important. You have to be confident going into the Cotton Bowl or you're going to get your ass beat. And getting that win.
14.5 points, Bobby.
Well, hey, look, we'll see. We'll see that if that line holds, that'll be, I believe, the biggest I think maybe just OU has been a dog in OU Texas since 2005 with Vince Young and co. So I mean, that's public's doubting OU. I mean, the public actually bet it down from 16, but Vegas is certainly doubting OU. I think a lot of people are doubting OU, and I get it. I get it. But look, Jameson, anything can happen in that damn Cotton Bowl. You and I know for sure. We want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah. One last message kind of to wrap it up about, just because you made me start thinking about the vibes of this game and the takeaways, Bobby. I think you're right in what you said. It's okay to be optimistic here and be excited for the way that game ended. But you've got to kind of play your cards right as a Sooner fan, because I heard some media members being like, oh man, it feels so good. Now let's look at the schedule in the future. South Carolina, that should be a win at home, which obviously that should. But then it's like, we look at Missouri. They haven't looked that good this year. That could be a W. Let's pump the brakes there, guys. Let's talk about LSU and Baton Rouge. That could be a W. I think that we still have so much to learn about this offense and then about the team as a whole that I feel like we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves too much in looking and diagnosing what our schedule is going to end up as, because we need to fix a lot before we go on the road versus more higher tiered SEC opponents, before we should saying as a, media and as a fan base saying, I think that we have a chance to win those games, because even if we do have a chance, I don't want to be saying it out loud.
Yeah, no, I mean, really what you need to do, get Mark Daignault in the room and have him instill the, 0-0 mentality, take it stack days, one game at a time, because I feel like, look, last year you beat Texas in an emotional game and then you look flat for the next three. Now, some might say that might have had something to do with a particular cucumber based item, brined and covered in fruity pebbles, but who's to say? But
Bobby will atone.
I did atone, and everything turned around. But also, I feel like that lack of focus can happen. You can get ahead of yourself, and I think you have to strike the balance between confidence and arrogance in a way. And I think obviously beating Auburn, not a great football team. They're 2-3, probably going to fire their coach this year. That's not the biggest win in the world, but if you can walk that tightrope, that's great. And I think OU fans should be thrilled. It's hard to win. It is hard as hell to win on the road in the SEC, regardless of, where you're at, who you're playing, unless it's Vandy. And Jordan Hare is one of the toughest spots in the country. And that was a team that grew up. That's a program that grew up that hasn't won a lot of road games at all under Britton Venables. I mean, this is really, I'm trying to think of just true conference road games that Venables won. I'm kind of struggling. Like BYU.
It's because we're in the Big 12, so it's like it's tough to really kind of pull those out, because what we put into stock of road wins in the past, it's not the same anymore. Because every single game we go into those, we'd be like, we expect to win them.
But also, I think it's just BYU.
Really?
Think we didn't have a very road-based schedule last year. It was like BYU, Oklahoma State lost, Kansas lost.
Yep.
And then I believe we got swept in conference on the road his first year. Because I can't think of a single road one we won. So it was big to get this one, because they have been notoriously bad on the road. It's a sign of progress. This team's not a national championship team. I think you'd be thrilled with. I think you're thrilled with 8-4. You're over the moon with 9-3 because you're in the playoff then somehow. But you just got to take it step by step, and just like how the players got to take it step by step, I think the fans have to understand college football's different. The setup's different. You got to take it one win at a time. I think the schedule looks more attainable than ever. Just in terms of your wins, but you're not going to win them all. And you don't.
You're right, and we didn't win a road game in conference in that season. I checked.
Yeah, it was just Nebraska, who is awful. But so yeah, big time road win, a lot to be excited about. But Texas awaits.
Yeah, we're hot and cold fan base. Let's ground ourselves and let's get ready for this game. I appreciate the optimism, but it's going to be a damn hard one.
I mean, this is as difficult a Texas team as OU's faced. Like, for real. Like, since you go back to the 2009 team with Colt McCoy, you go back to the 2005 team with Vince Young. This feels about as overmatched as OU's been. And at the same time, anything can happen. Like that 09 year, Bradford gets hurt early. Landry finds a way to make it a good game, loses in the end. But, I mean, how many times, Jameson, have we seen Texas teams that, had no business being in an OU game and they find a way to win?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
All the time. Last season, a little bit too.
Yeah. I mean, last season, I thought OU, I do think OU was
we had some business, but still, like, it was also like we were the underdog.
Yeah, no, for sure. So just we'll do a full deep dive. We're gonna bring our pal Chris Eilenstein back on to talk next week. We'll do all that, state fair preview, all of that. We're very excited for to just dive into this ball game. But early impressions on the Longhorns, Jameson.
I'm curious of how Quinn Ewers is going to look coming off this abdominal injury, because it seems like all of the vibes are coming out that he's preparing to play for this game. And we kind of already touched with abdominal injuries with Deion Burks. Like it's going to be a lot of pain management. What'd you say?
Sark has already said he will play.
So there you go. So like he's already approaching to the point where he's good. If he's already confident enough to say that 2 weeks out now, like, you'd feel like he's going to be pretty good. So I wish at least that it would be like, oh, we'll see how he is the week before, and to where he could be a little bit hobbled to where this defense could really put it on him. Because no matter who you are, in the back of your head coming first game off an injury, you're going to be a little inhibited, and hopefully that defense could really abuse that and take that, for their advantage. But Quinn Ewers looked calm, cool, and collected in Michigan, man, to where it's like, I wouldn't be surprised if he could just go out there and sling it, even if he wasn't feeling 100% healthy. I was really impressed the way he's played this season thus far.
Yeah. No, I mean, Ewers has played really, really well. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the 49-0 game was his first game back off of injury as well.
Yeah.
So, but obviously different.
It was the SC sprain he had. Yeah. Because that was a big shoulder when he got in the Alabama game.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously quite a bit of a different situation there, because OU had no shot. They were running a tight end at quarterback. OU is very much in a better position now than then, I will say. But no, I mean, I think yours, obviously, I think a very solid quarterback, looked great against Michigan. But if you want to win this game, you're kind of going to have to replicate some of what you did last time out. Turn him over early, get him to fumble, get him to throw picks, rattle him. And I think the D-line is good enough to do that. I think, obviously, the linebacking core is damn solid. Brent, I'm sure, will turn up that pressure early on him. But I think Ewers is I think he's a better quarterback than he was last time out. We saw him in October. I think he's had more experience in numerous big games. And to think you're going to replicate that is probably a little optimistic, but it's also kind of your path to victory.
Yeah. And I agree with that. Also, I think we need like a gimmick, like, a double reverse pass or something crazy. Like, we need to get the fans into it. And I know we hate this stuff here. We've been clamoring about jet sweeps for the past 2 years. We can't do it anymore. But maybe, just maybe, now that we have a quarterback who can run, maybe we can get something going and kind of squeeze the defense and get them on a trick play here. Because I hate to say it, Bobby, but if we just go mano a mano and play no BS with Texas, we're going to get punched in the mouth and lose. We're going to have a little finesse.
Yeah. Like Levy, Jesus. I think that's actually one of the better things Levy did do, is he schemed up a great game against Texas last year. And Luttrell's going to have to do that. They're going to have to get in the lab and figure something out that, as we mentioned before, really fits with Michael Hawkins's, abilities, what he's comfortable with. And, I think I think they can do that, because I don't think they've really tipped their hand at what Hawkins can do. I think this Auburn performance was relatively tame, not intentionally. I think it was more just to make sure your true freshman starting quarterback doesn't screw up. But, I think you have enough time. This bye week gives you, I'll go ahead and say it. I think the bye week favors Oklahoma more than it favors Texas.
Absolutely.
Without
Absolutely.
a doubt.
Man, we need this bad right now. We are essentially doing what most teams did in the offseason of figuring out an offense for their quarterback. We were not ready for this. I don't care who you are. Even with this team in the offseason, seeing a Jackson Arnold throw a bunch of interceptions and all of the hoopla that we were getting all over the place. I don't think this offensive staff was ever thinking that it would come to this. I really don't think that they were.
No, I mean, definitely not. I think this is, yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone. Well, definitely not the quarterback thing. And I would actually say probably they would be more shocked about the receiving core getting completely decimated than having to switch between Arnold and Hawkins, just given how good Hawkins looked.
I did say in the preseason I was worried. I was worried when Jaden Gibson went down. I could go clip that. And I got a little bit of pushback from y'all saying that I didn't believe in this wide receiving room because one more guy goes down, the Jenga tower, I think is what I said about it. It was like a Jenga tower. You might pull one piece out and it might come falling to the ground.
So it's your fault.
I'm just trying to pat myself on the back. Who cares about that kind of stuff? You can say we can podcast for 3 hours a week, and I'm gonna at least say one thing right, every once in a while. But say
mine squirrels and nuts, stuff. Man. That's funny. Yeah, no, I don't know. It really was unfortunate how it all unraveled, and I don't know. Getting Burks back will help. Having some time to just heal up, rest up. The defense having time to not spend a Saturday with 35 game minutes on the field. By the way, they did that 3 times this season. Houston had them out for 35 minutes.
That's ridiculous.
Ridiculous. They need a rest. So I don't know. I'm not saying I don't feel I feel confident in our ability to beat Texas. But I feel more confident about Texas than I would Alabama. Probably.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, Alabama, probably at this point, even like,
Are you saying the Texas game and the Alabama game, or if we were to play Alabama on a neutral field? Like, what is your point?
The Texas game and the Alabama game. I feel better about having Texas in the Cotton Bowl because it's just that wild, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Anything can happen.
Yeah, I think anything can happen. I think I feel more confident about, Texas and Ole Miss even, on the road, or LSU on the road. I just think there's something to this game that just you see weird.
Did you say LSU?
I'd go as far as to say LSU, just because of how weird the Cotton Bowl can get. Maybe it's irrational. I don't know. I know it might be irrational. I think sometimes you take the football out of it, and I don't know. I think.
I mean, we've seen a true freshman go out there and make some more Sooner magic on this field not too long ago. So, it could be that.
Texas does have the bulletin board material from last year's week-long celebration. The whole Texas fears Oklahoma thing. So that's not great. So that might come to roost. So OU boys, they better come fired up with that same energy, because Texas, I think, is going to come out pissed off.
Yeah, I'm worried, Bobby.
If you don't come out pissed off for OU Texas, what are you doing? You got to be fired up.
Yeah. No, we needed that fourth quarter in the Auburn game. The vibes are high right now. Still a little nervy, I'm sure, but we needed those vibes so bad. And it's either way, no matter what this game is, it's going to be so fun, as a fan going into this game. And the Texas State Fair is just something that no matter, even if the game is the 49-0, you're going to enjoy it.
I didn't enjoy it that much. Well, I enjoyed the pregame.
Well, you enjoy it beforehand. You enjoy the game. You enjoy the fair beforehand.
I had the
you know how many times I've angrily rage quit out of the Texas State Fair after the game? I can't do it. So I'm not that type of person to enjoy the fair afterwards. But before, Bobby, you can enjoy it before.
The worst part about that 49-0 thing was sitting in line for a corny dog after the game and having a Texas fan be like, "Man, I'm so sorry about that." I'm like, "Oh, I hate it. Don't pity me. I just want to get my corn dog. Stop being nice." I don't know. So let's just hope it's a better game than that. And I think it will be. I think OU is going to come to play, and I don't know. Anyways, we have a whole week to preview that. That'll all start coming through next week. But this week we got the weekend spread coming up on Wednesday. And then we'll talk Texas, and it's going to be a good one. So for me and Jameson, this has been the Schooner Pod. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you next time. Boomer Sooner, everybody. Beat Texas.